Hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another update. So today's video is that, as most of you guys know, is that tax season has officially now begun as of Monday, January 24th, 2022. And this video, because of that reason, is going to be very, very relevant from now all the way until pretty much April. Because today I want to talk about essentially a brand new program that's really going on that was actually just approved. So I repeat, this is an approved program that's actually physically happening, because I know there's a lot of people from like comments and all over that want to hear about something that's just happening instead of just something that's speculated to happen, even though most of the news relates to that. But the big idea, what's really going on is that there is a new program that was actually just approved. It technically has actually been around for years and years now. But the biggest difference, what was approved, is that they have officially recently just approved an expansion to that specific program to essentially now potentially provide stimulus checks up to about $1,500 on top of whatever your normal tax return is. Technically, all of the first, second, and third stimulus checks was a tax credit. The only difference is that they gave you the money before you did your taxes instead of after you did your taxes, but nonetheless, it's a tax rebate. And that's the reason why you don't have to pay taxes on it. So today's program is also another program that you don't have to pay taxes on. So we're going to talk all about it, but in today's update, I especially want to talk about what this program is. Some people have been wondering, and because I think the really, really great news is that this is also the few programs that applies to single individuals. So if you happen to be a single like me, so I totally feel it right there. Again, I know lots of people that are in relationships, couples, married, that have had children since they were teenagers. But for us singles that can hopefully relate. Now, there is some great news, because this program actually does technically apply to couples as well. It's just that because there's already so many programs that relate to couples that we've talked about, like child tax credit being the most famous one, I figured today we would do something that's at least more inclusive to every single person, regardless of your relationship status. So with that being said, let's get this video started. But as always, real fast, before we begin, remember to smash the like button, consider subscribing, especially as we talk about this and more programs hopefully coming up. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts, or honestly just really anything. Always great to say hi to new and familiar faces. So with that being said, let's get this video started. So the new program, essentially what this is, that it's a way that you can potentially do something to your taxes. So it's a physical form that you can potentially try to attach when you do your taxes for this upcoming year. So for last year, but this season, where essentially if you were to complete it out, it's a program that's meant to help anyone that happens to be a low-income individual, someone that's of need. And I know this applies to basically a lot of people right here, so I totally feel it here. I was also unemployed for most of the pandemic because I work in the events industry, and you can imagine what happens when all of the events get canceled and everything that happens. That represents a paycheck for a group of people, and it just happens to be I'm in that industry. But the big idea really is that this program right now, it was approved. This is the information that comes directly from the IRS website. So it's as official. This is not from a news article. This is directly from the IRS. And essentially what it is that it's a program called the Earned Income Tax Credit, otherwise also known as the EITC, that you can basically add onto your taxes. It has technically gone on for many, many years now, but back then, the amount of money you used to can potentially get from it was really just about a couple $100s. So that's probably the reason why you may or may not have heard about this program as much, because it wasn't a program that had a significant dollar amount to potentially just, let's just say, something that many people would look into. But the great news as what was approved is that they've now officially approved an expansion. So now the biggest idea is that the first new thing is that now more people can physically get on it, especially people that are on the singles side. They've also expanded the income cap. And the big thing is that they've also, of course, most of all, increased the amount of money that you can physically receive from it. So specifically from single single individuals, the maximum amount of money that you can now receive from this program is going to be about $1,502. So that's a lot of money. In fact, that's actually basically the amount of the third stimulus check if you are able to qualify for this. Now, in order to get onto this program, there are a couple rules, so we're going to talk about that. The first thing really is about the income. So essentially, in order to be able to get onto this, the new income for this upcoming year is that if you happen to be a single individual, you have to have had earned income of $21,430 or less. So again, the idea is to really be able to help people that just have a really particular need. So if you made somewhere under $21,430 as a single individual, then you're at least qualified based off of this requirement. There's a couple more and we're going to talk about that. If you happen to be a married individual with a spouse or you file jointly, that income becomes $27,380. So you get a little bit more leeway, but granted is that number is now split between two different people since this is for joint filers. Now, there are a couple rules in order to be able to qualify for this even beyond the income. The first is really about the fact that you cannot be a student under the age of 24. But the great news is that one of the new things about that was approved very, very recently in the expansion is that now there is actually no age limit. It used to be something where you had to essentially be between 24 to 64 years old. So I'm guessing that they wanted to, make it so that only adults could really get onto this. The great news is that now adults still can very much get onto this, but instead of capping at people at 64 years old, you can now they've basically now removed that cap, so you can basically be anything older than that. So if you happen to be 100 years old, and I know there's a very wide age range of people here, I know there's a lot of people that are here that range from, in their early 20s all the way up to basically something around the senior citizen. So the idea is that regardless of your age, as long as you're an adult, which most people here are, then you can potentially at least fulfill that second requirement when it comes to age. Now, the third brand new information that was also recently now approved in the expansion, which is a really, really great news as well, is that if, let's say, for example, your last year's tax season, you were not able to qualify because of the income threshold, one of the greatest new things that was recently approved is that they've now officially created a new rule where you can now use any of the tax seasons from the last 3 years in order to qualify for this. So if, say, for example, maybe you actually did make over $20-something thousand in 2021, the year that just recent, I believe is that they're now able to use any tax document dating back to 2019. So essentially, if in 2019 or in 2020, or of course in 2021, because that's the tax season we're actually talking about, you are able to qualify for this, you can now use whichever tax season is to your benefit. And I think that's one of the really, really great news that was recently approved. I do know, however, is that if you are trying to use a tax season before 2021, there might be an additional form of something that you have to potentially fill out to be able to just let them know that it applies to that the tax year that you're using to get this is from one of the tax seasons in the past. Actually very similar to what a lot of people that are still waiting or that are trying to claim past stimulus checks like PUC payments from the first, second, third stimulus check. We talked a little bit about what that is, but essentially it's just a special way to get past owed stimulus. I'll probably put a video at the very, very end screen on the bottom if you're interested in hearing about that. Most people already saw it, but essentially anything like that, it's pretty much going to have a very, very similar procedure where you're going to put it on your new tax document and you can use that now to potentially and hopefully qualify for as much money as you possibly can be. Now, beyond this is that there are also actually, interestingly, a lot of different demographics and groups of people that may very much qualify for this program but just not even realize that they qualify for this program. So for example, directly on the IRS website right here, they mentioned that there's going to be a lot of people that could potentially qualify. Examples of this are, for example, people that are maybe single, people that are say for example, not from a traditional family. So an example of this could be if, let's say for example, you are someone that maybe happens to be a grandparent that is raising kids, so the kids are not actually being raised by their immediate parents. This is a group of people that can potentially qualify but that may not even realize it. Then it's definitely something to look into. I do know, for example, another couple examples of people that may qualify but just not end up realizing are going to be a lot of people that maybe don't speak particularly good English. I know this also because I'm from New York, and so I grew up and know a lot of people that do not speak English. Most people here probably do speak English. That's the reason why you're listening to me talk in English. But that's just one example that they specifically stated. And maybe to share, if maybe you do know English, but maybe you know someone that does not know very good English, to maybe at least tell them about it. There are also a lot of people in the armed forces, people in rural areas, so they're maybe not exposed to as much information, Native Americans, and then also just a lot of people that are maybe disabled. So they're not able to easily access information or be aware of this program, physically existing, which is why the great news is that if you happen to be here, hopefully now you do happen to be able to know about it and can spread the word to other people that maybe don't, so they can maybe qualify for as much money as they possibly can be. But the big idea is that I just really wanted to talk about the qualification in today's update. So hopefully that basically describes all of it. If you guys found that relatively insightful, maybe consider smashing the like button if you guys haven't done so. Huge thanks if you guys already did. As always, consider subscribing, especially because I do think I might make another part to this video where I actually talk a lot more now about the steps of how to actually physically get onto this program. I just figured it's probably important to just talk about the qualifications so you know if it's even worth it to pursue it. But hopefully, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well. Feel free to comment any questions, thoughts, or honestly anything, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.